every day to the world and to your heart. Open up your eyes and let your spirit start. Say yes to the dreams you hold inside. Let your soul be your guide.
In a world where guidance and expertise is the difference maker, we are proud to have the #1 coaching and consulting company sponsoring Wednesday Wisdom. 2020 Vision for Success Coaching and Consulting sets the bar with their vast array of services spanning financial forensic support, executive coaching, all the way to the most robust loan originator business school in the nation. With a proven track record backed by dozens of combined years in mortgage and real estate expertise, 2020 Vision Success Coaching has the most diverse, in-depth, and intuitive professional development platform in the nation. Visit www.visionyoursuccess.net and check them out, or email solutions@visionyoursuccess.net for a free, no pressure, complimentary discovery call. You will be surprised. Affordable consulting with a rich expertise. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom. Today, we are joined by the amazing Isabel Baumgarten. She is the Director of Operations and the General Counsel at DocProbe. Now, before we welcome Isabel, I do want to just once again, this is a lesson that I have to keep reiterating. Isabel and I did not know each other. And she reached out to me on LinkedIn because I was attending a conference and she was also attending. And she reached out to me to say, hey, Laura, I'd love to, get a couple of minutes, have a conversation for nothing more than let's meet each other and introduce and get to know each other. To everyone out there listening to this is exactly what we all should be doing. Regardless of the fact of who we are in the industry, what our role is, what we're doing, expanding our networks, getting to know people, taking a moment to just form a relationship is the most important part of our business, because we all know that's what this business is about. It's about serving the families that we serve, our clients, our partners. It's a relationship business. So the first thing I want to say is, Isabel, we were supposed to connect at one conference and we couldn't wind up connecting. So we connected at a second conference and we enjoyed a moment of being part of an experience outside of the conference, something that I know will certainly stay in my memory for many, many years. So I just want to throw that out there because these are the things that make up long-standing relationships for all of us. With that, I did invite Isabel to share her wisdom with all of us because she is an absolutely incredible person and we can all learn from her. So to kick us off, Isabel, my very first question is, I'd love to hear from you. What would you say is one of the best pieces of advice or something you've learned from someone or participated in that has touched you and made you think about applying it to the rest of your personal or professional life?
Well, thank you, Laura. Just want to quickly say thanks for that introduction. And it's been a real pleasure to connect with you. I'm all really about, growing those relationships and learning from others in the industry. And you've definitely been someone that I always wanted to meet, and I'm happy that we were able to make that connection and kind of continue along that journey. To answer your question, when I think about something that really shaped me, as kind of an emerging adult and into the adulthood years in my professional career, it really, I would say, the person that that touched me in that very critical way to help define what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be was actually my mom. And it was interesting because I was very much an explorer when, I was in college and I wanted to have different internships and different jobs. And I really wasn't sure what major I wanted to go into. And what I ended up doing was I just did a lot of different things. So I was I was at NYU undergrad. I took the opportunity of living in the city, and I did a lot of different internships. At that time, it was journalism and advertising that I was more geared towards. And on top of that, I had a job. I think I did like telemarketing at night. So my days were really, really packed. And I would come home sometimes looking for like sympathy, empathy, something along those lines. And my mom would something, right? And there was, I mean, it's a very warm, caring person, but she would always ask me, like, who asked you to do all of that? Right. Meaning, and at first I didn't really understand it. I'm like, why can't you sympathize? I had such a long day. It was so hard or whatever. And she really made me understand the value of really being present in the choices that you make, and making sure it's worthwhile. Like, are you doing this for you? I mean, obviously in life, you do a lot of things to please others, and there's a practical aspect of working and supporting your family. But at the end of the day, you have to be critical to yourself and say, am I doing these things because I want to do them? What's driving me? Instead of kind of getting into some sort of pattern or swirl or pressure from someone else. And I think that I've really taken that, going forward. Anytime I feel a little bit burnt out, or, hey, I'm not really sure about where I'm at, I'll ask myself that question. And I think that that was such valuable advice as an emerging adult, because it gives you a sense of your own self-esteem and why are you doing it, right? And you're just a conscious thinking person throughout that process and throughout your growth.
Wow. Well, very wise woman there. So kudos to mom for all of that wisdom that she shared. And isn't that just like our parents, right? To kind of throw it back at us and like, because I can picture it, right? I can picture it with my own kids where they're expecting you to agree with them, right? But we know
Right.
as parents, the best thing we can do is question, right? And kind of make them think, right? Even though at that moment, maybe we push back, in that moment, but then you think about it. So let's unpack this a little bit as to what was said and how this applies, right? So I was just listening to a podcast. I love podcasts, right? I'm listening to podcasts all the time. And I was just listening to a podcast this morning, and they were speaking about social media. And they were saying that people are filling so much of their time with social media that they think that they're doing it for whatever that reason is, right? But when you were saying it, I was thinking about that, because I'm like, wow, we have this limited amount of time, and we have to decide, where are we going to be present? What if we had a jar, right? If, like, as if, that thing with the what is it, the stones and the pebbles and the sand, right? With what you
Exactly. Yeah.
fill in your jar, right? And you kind of think about that, of that's our time. That's the amount of time we have in a day, in a week, in a year, whatever, in our life. We have that amount of time. So with that, why are we doing those particular things? Because yes, we have to explore, we have to try things. We're ever emerging and changing, no matter how long we're on this earth. It doesn't matter how old we are, we're always emerging, right? And so with that, what is the true impetus to that, right? Where is that coming from? So for your mother to challenge that, I love it, because so many times we don't stop and think about it. And Isabel, so now I really need to know that that advice was incredible and so philosophical, because most of the time we're just rushing, we're just going, we're just moving forward, and we really don't stop to think about it. So now here's the next question, because this is the most important piece of it. How did you take that and now apply it to your adult life that's now filled with being a mom, being a wife, being a career woman, being all of those things? You're being a daughter, you're being a community member, you're being all of these different hats. How do you take that advice? And at what point is it, okay, I need to put myself in check. I notice the road I'm going down. What does that look like? How do you go through that process?
There's probably a couple different ways that I apply it. I do have a lot on my plate. I still have a lot on my plate. Um, in addition to being a mother and really working full time, I do a lot of volunteering. My family does a lot of volunteering. We're very involved in our community. We're Orthodox Jews, so there's a lot of holidays that we have to prepare for. We host a lot on the Sabbath for the Sabbath meals. And what I find is that you really have to make sure you check yourself in the moment and that you could be present in those various relationships. If you feel that there is a disconnect when you are like, if you're not able to focus on whatever you're doing, let's say you're at work and you need to be present for a team lead or an employee, and you're just feeling overwhelmed because you have another task to do, or you just not enjoying that experience, meaning not enjoying in a way of fun, but you're not feeling that you're being productive, you're not feeling that you're being meaningful. So I say that I don't live in this conscious state all the time. It's impossible,
Yeah.
but I definitely do it very often. I'll do it often. And if I feel like I'm in like a funk or a mood, I'll check myself and I'll say, where is that coming from? Like, why am I having that bad day? And, what do I need to improve it? Is that because the meeting just wasn't structured? Did I not manage that expectation? Or is there something more that I'm missing here? Like, I need to take some things off my plate. I need to reprioritize what I want to do. I think this comes into play professionally when you look at goals. I try and set goals for the year and definitely for like the first quarter of the year when, you're in December and you're like in this state of I can plan, before anything really happens. And if I were to check my progress on my goals every day, it's impossible. You'd
No.
really just be so upset, like you're not
Yes.
making enough progress.
Yes.
But every couple weeks, I'll check it. And now that we're coming to the end of the quarter, I'll be like, am I moving fast enough? Did some other priority come that I was conscious about making that decision? And I'll make more time for something that maybe was, if you wouldn't think about it, would kind of fall through those cracks. So I try and do that in different areas of my life and the people I spend time with. People who end up just draining you, like if there's a lot of drama, then I'll say, I love you, but I'm not going to be spending time with you. So I feel like that advice wasn't limited to kind of your professional goal, but it's
No.
how, like you said, how you fill your time. How do you want to live your life in a meaningful way?
Yeah, which again is so broad, right? So broad because
Oh, for sure.
it really, listen, if we can sit here and look back, it's funny. I saw a post today of a friend, and she posted her and her daughter having a girls' dance party 4 years ago during lockdown of COVID. And it was the cutest little thing. She was dressed like in an evening gown, the mom. She was
Oh, that's
dressed in an
great.
evening gown in their living room. And the little girl was dressed in a princess outfit with a tiara. And it was during lockdown of COVID. Think about March of 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
And she posted the memory on Facebook. And when I saw that, number one, it just warmed my heart, right? It just made me think of, man, what a special memory of mom and daughter, having that moment. But then I thought to myself, here we are 4 years later, right? Think about the lessons that we learned when our world changed in 2020, right? The drastic change that happened to us. But did we learn all those lessons? Did we wind up going back to that hustle and bustle and forgetting what was truly important, right? Like it kind of is that reminder of, I will use that expression, check yourself. That
Right.
maybe we all need to check ourselves every so often because we are constantly making progress, constantly, right? Now, progress to what? Right? What is that progress? Where is that path leading us, right? Because it could be somewhere excellent. It could be going exactly where we want to go. Or maybe it's not. Maybe that progress is leading us off the track that we want to. So what I'm hearing and kind of taking a bit of what your mom's great wisdom was, and then checking ourselves of, what track are we on, right? And in every level, like you mentioned that your religion background, obviously that's very important to you and your family, right? Because I think of everything within our lives, you have our careers, you have our family, and then you have your spirituality or
Sure.
your religion. And it goes for all of that, right? Your relationships all tie within that and affect all of those buckets. This is very deep, Isabel. I love this, but it's so important because
Yeah.
all of this ties to where are we ultimately looking to go? What impact are we having professionally, personally? What is that impact? And when we're recording this, guys, although you're going to hear this in the future, we are recording this. We're about to wrap up the first quarter. First quarter of 2024 in the books. By the time this airs, second quarter is probably going to be over. That's how quick it's going by, right? So putting ourselves almost in that timeout category every so often, that when we feel that distance, when we feel, why is this getting me upset? Maybe it's a timeout moment for us to kind of reevaluate and understand why that is and take inventory, like you mentioned about I like to call them energy vampires, right? When you get that feeling of
we all have those.
yeah, yeah, and listen, that doesn't mean we don't still love them. We appreciate them, but we also understand they can't take up a large amount of our time, right? Because it will negatively affect us. So all of that awareness ties into a fulfilling and wonderful life. So Isabel, so I know you were out on the road. We met traveling. You've been traveling all this stuff. You have all your plans. How did first quarter look? Like, meaning for your goals that you were looking to accomplish, how do you feel about that first quarter?
So it was interesting because I was, part of my goals for the quarter was to attend at least 3 conferences, which I did. I'm not sure I would do that again all in one quarter. And also really speaking at one of the conferences. So that was also kind of on my bucket list. And I was happy to say that I did that. Part of the, if you want to call it the downturn in the industry, has really given us some capacity to get out there, right? And to network and to really see what other lenders are doing, what's of interest, what's, hot. We don't really have that time when we're so busy with volume. So, I think the other major goal for me, at least, on a professional level, was really continuing to double down on automation and our development. And again, that's really not something you can do when you're racing the race, right? It's very hard to find that balance. And I think, we have a wonderful team at DocProbe, and we're very, very committed to our sprints and making sure that we're meeting our goals. So we're excited. We're going to have a new client portal that's going to be coming out. All of the kind of framework's been done and will be done by the end of the quarter. So, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good, despite that I haven't been around, in the office. I feel like I was able to check boxes, if you will, in different areas that were important to me.
And that's awesome. And you did it, right? You did it. You have those goals. Now, okay, here we go. We're into the next quarter, new set of goals.
Exactly.
And that's just, you're doing it with that awareness of how you want it to be done. Because anybody, I'll use your expression of check boxes, right? We can check off the boxes, but how do we feel about how that was accomplished, right? How do we feel about, did I have to sacrifice half of the things in order to make that happen, or was I able to do it in harmony? And it sounds to me like, yes, it's always difficult when you're on the road, but you were able to do it within harmony. So that's great. All right. Yeah. Well, Isabel, love this discussion. So valuable. We are up to the point that I would love to hear, what is a piece of advice or something that you would like to share with all of our audience that's coming from you?
Sure. I think probably the one thing that I would tell people is to really just know that, and it may sound so, like mundane even, but like I really feel like life and your professional life, your personal life is really a journey. I know that when I was first starting out, extremely ambitious, newly married, new career as an attorney, you really want to do everything at once. And I think that that's like the first thing you have to realize, that it's really not a sprint. Life is really not a sprint. You will not be able to do everything at once. I think that if you are able to, again, going back to the other part, which is be present in your journey and whatever you're in, and realize that you're not going to be able to always be the best mom and the best executive, right? You have to know that everyone talks about balance. I find that maybe some days you get that balance, but other days you just know I'm going to be better at a mom today, and tomorrow I'll have to give more attention to my business, right? And I think that if you don't keep kind of cutting yourself short by saying, why am I not getting to everything that same week, that same month, that same year, that same 5-year plan, right? I think that we try, I'm a little bit of a control freak. We try and frame everything that we really want to do. And then life happens. There's no, there's no job description for a parent, and there's no job description for when you have parents that are aging or sick, and life happens, right? So you have to give yourself that space and know that you should be aware of what your goals are, but put your head down, be present, do the work, and know that, you will be able to accomplish, but it's not going to happen all at the same time. And I think like having patience with yourself and giving yourself that permission while still having very clear goals is a very healthy mindset. I think it really worked for me. I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit, but I come from being an attorney, and came into legal administration, and then in-house counsel, and then now, at Doc Brobe in the mortgage industry. And I can tell you that all of it connects. Everything that I learned at each experience lent itself to the person that I am today. But I would never know that. I would never see that. But I'm happy that I was able to be present, get what I needed from it, be patient with myself, be present for my family and friends. I think that that's, it's that balance of being able to be kind to yourself, right? But also just stay focused on what's important to you, and take one day at a time and kind of move forward.
So two things come to mind with what you said, and I love all of it. One, my word, I would describe that as grace. Give yourself some grace, right? And the second thing, which is one of my favorite things that I listen to whenever I need it, Steve Jobs' speech, the one I'm speaking about in 2005,
Yes.
right? Where he speaks about connecting the dots. That all of us, if you look back on your life, you can connect the dots. Just what you said, right? That everything happens exactly at the moment it's supposed to. We cannot control, to your point, if our child, has to stay home from school, and that throws you off, or the aging parent, or whatever, right? Whatever happens, we can't control things like that. That is life. That is life. That's always going to happen, right? But it will arrive and things will line up exactly when it's supposed to. The people, I always say, again, going back to how we started this, people come into our lives exactly at the moment they're supposed to. Isabel reached out to me and we met at the moment we were supposed to. Okay. I wholeheartedly believe that. Right. And if we weren't ever supposed to connect, just like the first time we were supposed to connect and we didn't, we wouldn't. Like it just wouldn't happen. Right. So let control go a little bit, right? Have our goals, have our plans, have our strategies. Absolutely. We need to know what direction we're going in, right? We need to know if we're Christopher Columbus, right? We need to know where are we trying to go, even though we might not land exactly in that spot, right? But then understand that, yes, the wind's going to blow us one direction and maybe we get off course, and then we get blown somewhere else and we get back on course. And it's going to happen. It's when we hold on for dear life and try to, force it another way, That's where we struggle. So have grace for all of us. Now, I love what you just said. Be kind. Be kind to yourself and realize that we'll have our plan. Might not go exactly in a straight line. It might be a squiggly line that goes up and down and around.
Mhm.
That might happen more than likely in our lives, but we'll eventually get to exactly where we were supposed to be at the time we were supposed to be there. So,
Exactly.
woo, Isabel, good stuff. That was like really intense, but I love the discussion. Thank you for sharing your insights, your wisdoms, and giving us a piece of your time where you were present with us. Isabel, tell us where people can learn about DocProbe and get in touch with you.
We have a website, docprobe.net. That's the best way. And obviously I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Wishing you all the
Thank
best
you, Laura.
always.